All right, Jules, thank you so much. So the New York City Council poised to vote on several major housing development plans that would really reshape parts of Brooklyn and Queens.
While all of these plans will bring thousands of much-needed affordable housing units, they're not without controversy. So here to break it down for us is Leah Goodridge, a commissioner with the Department of New York City Planning. So good morning, Commissioner. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, morning. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah. So as we mentioned, I mean, what all the plans have in common is this promise for affordable housing. But not all the community boards are on board with this or believe it really. Why is that?
So I'm one of the 13 commissioners on the City Planning Commission, and we heard testimony from New Yorkers about these plans because they had to come through. And one of the main grievances was that the affordable apartments are not affordable enough. Okay. So for example, in many of the plans, they include studios that are for $3,200. That's the affordable housing. Wow. In many, over half of them are $2,000 studios or more. And so, of course, New Yorkers voiced concerns that, you know, what one of the phrases was, if we are going to have a plan that gives private developers the ability to build housing, then we want to make sure that the housing is truly affordable.
Which makes sense. I mean,
right.
When you hear those prices, it doesn't really sound affordable. The Jamaica rezoning plan has already cleared several hurdles in the council, but there have been changes to the actual plan, right, from the initial one. Can you talk about that?
Sure. One of the main issues that the council member in that district, or one of the two council members in that district raised, was stormwater and sewer protection. You know, when it rains sometimes in Jamaica, it can really get nasty. And so they wanted to make sure that the infrastructure was you know, adequate after you build, you know, we're talking about thousands of new housing units. And so I believe that they worked that out. Another issue was school seating. I don't think some people realize that when you build, for example, 4,000 new housing units, that might be 1,000 additional students in the neighborhood. Yeah. And so part of urban planning is to ensure that the schools have enough capacity. And so you know, the council member wanted to work that part out with the city as well. So I believe that they ironed those things out.
Okay. What about the one LIC plan? That one stands apart from the others. Why is that? Yeah,
I mean, the last time that Long Island City had rezoning this large was in 2001. And so this would bring about 15,000 new housing units. 4,300 of them would be marked affordable. And the last time they had this large plan, there wasn't mandatory inclusionary housing. And so none of these units were required to be affordable. And so this would be the biggest sweep of affordable housing units, you know, in one plan. You know, that's a huge change for the neighborhood.
Who sets the idea of affordable housing in terms of the price, right? And what truly is affordable?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that is one of my greatest passions, because I used to be a tenants' rights attorney, and so I'm working with working class people, and they are applying for these apartments on Housing Connect and they can't afford them. So who sets that? A few different players. One is the mayor has a huge influence on, for example, what we would allow for. There are different levels. So there is deeply affordable, there is moderate affordable, and so for each project we can have more deeply affordable housing units. So one player would be the mayor. Another is the actual percentages set by HUD. And so those are called the area median income. Not to get too much in the weeds here,
no,
but
it's just, you know, affordable housing is such a pivotal point for so many voters this year. And so I was just curious, you know, it's affordable to who, you know, when you set the rate. But yeah, I know it's very convoluted and there's so many different layers to it, which is really part of the problem.
Right, and so for example, one issue is that I don't think most New Yorkers know that for affordable housing, what qualifies as low income is $90,000. So, you know, like I said, I'd have people that I represented who were taxi drivers, who were home health care aides, and the affordable housing might start at $50,000 and they can't afford it because their income is too low.
Right.
Wow, that's crazy. Let's take a look at what's happening, though, in Brooklyn also. So the Atlantic Avenue development plan, that's also getting a little bit of pushback.
Right, that definitely had a lot of pushback because of the affordability measures. The Atlantic Avenue mix plan, that was in the Bed-Stuy, Prospect Heights area. And so a lot of the neighborhood folks, you know, they wanted more deeply affordable units. That plan passed, the city council passed that plan I believe that was May 28th, and they ironed out some other details. This always happens. It comes to the commission, then it goes to the city council for a vote, then they iron out details, and they might include more deeply affordable units, or they might have less. But you know, that plan passed despite neighborhood grievances.
Okay. You know, and when people head to the ballot this November, there are other ballot proposals on the ballot, including ways to make these affordable units built faster. Mm-hmm. Do you have any say in what those measures are? Do you support them?
Yeah, so one of the measures, or some of the measures, would be that the way to make this faster is that the City Planning Commission would vote on those measures as opposed to the council, the city council. So to be fully transparent, there are some grievances about that because you know, the city council, many of the city council members believe that they would like to have more of a say in power because it's their districts. And the City Planning Commission is mostly mayoral appointed.
Right.
So that means that, you know,
giving the mayor more control, taking stuff away from the council. So you really can't say where you sit on the issue.
Right.
On the commission. I get it. Yeah, I get where you're going.
I mean, I understand. I do understand the grievances because at the end of the day, to be fully transparent, most things do pass at the commission.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, thank you, Commissioner, for coming in
and
so
laying
that all up for us. We appreciate it.
Good conversation.